Hey guys, welcome along to Sceammeupbotty, and we're getting into another of the classic Star Trek shows. This is episode 9 from season 1. It's called Dagger of the Mind. I really enjoyed this episode, and I don't know, part of me is like, when I was watching it, I'm fairly conscious these days of content going out onto the internet, and it's partly the reason why Star Trek in particular for me, in my mind, had to be an audio podcast instead of a series on my review channel. There's a lot of shows, and not just the original run of the series, but the Next Generation, Enterprise as well for one, that are just jumping to mind as I'm talking about it. It would be the sorts of episodes that could fairly swiftly get a show cancelled in today's culture. It's so strange these days. Just, being a creator on the internet myself, I'm very wary of what I can and cannot do these days. Everybody gets upset at absolutely everything, and an example of that in my own history would be, I know I'm jumping off track here very quickly, but just when I'm on that subject, I'm a self-taught creator. I didn't go to school to learn this sort of stuff, as you probably realise from sound quality and whatnot, but I produced and directed a short film called Conclusions a few years back, and it was based on suicide awareness, suicide prevention sort of a deal, and based upon my own story from my own past. And the thing I swiftly realised whenever I was making that film, trying to get it funded and put out there, was the extreme backlash that you get from simply the subject matter. It doesn't matter what was in the film, what the intentions of the film were. I got a lot of kickback from people that considered themselves Christians, let's just say. I was actually told at one point by a holy rolling Christian that I should actually go and commit suicide myself. Go take your own life. It's just, everybody gets offended so quick at a lot of stuff, no matter what your intentions are. The conclusions, the intention behind that film was to help people that were maybe in that frame of mind that just, if you were watching it, you could probably relate to it, maybe give you a bit of a different perspective on it. The kind of, like, the effect that sort of thing would have on someone was my intention behind it. The person themselves going through it gives you that kind of, the flip side of the coin sort of deal, because when you're in a certain situation and you're mentally in that sort of space, you tend to kind of just see where you're at and not. And again, it's based on my own past. You tend to see your own situation, where you're at, where you think you're going, instead of the bigger picture, the other side of the coin. So that was kind of the deal with that short film. But as I say, a lot of the people just hated it. Now, I'm not just talking, they watched the film and hated it. It was like the context of the film, or the subject matter of it. They heard it was about suicide awareness, weren't interested in even checking it out, just got offended because of the nature of the film. So I kind of have that mindset of going into some of the Star Trek things, and Dagger of the Mind is very psychological, based on the characters and what's happening in it. There is a planet, Tantalus 5. It's a colony where criminally insane people are confined for treatment. It's a hospital planet, essentially. And there's this doctor, Tristan Adams. He's a psychiatrist. He's famous for advocating more humane treatment for the criminally insane patients. At the beginning of the Enterprise, at the beginning of the episode, the Enterprise makes a supply run to the planet, and after the Enterprise delivers supplies, it receives cargo from the planet, a box, and a man emerges from the container. Nobody knows he's beamed on board. He assaults the technician in the transporter room, and eventually he reaches the bridge. I'm cutting the episode down here kind of slightly because I don't want to destroy it for you. There will always spoilers in here, don't get me wrong, but my intention right here with these episodes is to get you to go check out the series for yourself. If you've never checked out Star Trek, you're interested in the whole space science fiction thing, classic show. Even the new stuff, I'm absolutely loving it. But in this episode, this psychotic patient escapes Tantalus 5 on the Enterprise in this box. He attacks one of the technicians in the transporter room, and eventually reaching the bridge, he demands asylum from Captain Kirk. But Spock subdues him with the Vulcan neck pinch. I love seeing that coming in the series. It's just one of the highlights for me. Spock would just, as nice as you like, just walk up behind someone and boom, knock him out. In the sick bay, the intruder identifies himself as Simon Van Gelder, but he's having problems and actually telling the details of what he wants to tell. It's almost as if whenever he's going on to say something, he'll go into a psychotic rage or break out in emotions, and McCoy is repeatedly having to use the hypo on him and put him under. Computer checks reveal that he's not actually a patient on Tantalus 5, but Dr. Adams' assistant. And when Captain Kirk informs Tantalus of Van Gelder's capture, Dr. Adams claims that Van Gelder's testing of a new experimental treatment device on himself is responsible for the condition that he's in. McCoy comes to the bridge, hears the back and forth on the communicators between the Doctor and Captain Kirk, and he's suspicious of what's going on here. He can't put his finger on it. He just knows there's something wrong, and he urges Kirk to investigate. McCoy is like, some people kind of find it strange that in my history with watching the show, people were always a bit weird about, how come Captain Kirk has full control of the Enterprise, but McCoy is always the one that's really, really challenging. Kirk or Spock does the same thing with Kirk a lot, but McCoy is, almost jumping ranks at times on board the Enterprise. But basically the Doctor in the Enterprise or any starship is essentially the highest rank in there when you really think about it. Like, he has the authority to actually take the captain out of command of a ship if he feels that the captain is acting irrationally or whatever. So he's, the power that the Doctor actually has on the Enterprise is far stretching. Not just the Enterprise, any other starship as well. But I digress. McCoy says, look, I'm putting this into my log that I'm suspicious about this, and you're going to have to answer it in your log. So he puts Kirk on the spot. Kirk, at the beginning of the episode, is quite happily going to take Van Gelder back to the planet. But, whenever McCoy puts him on the spot, this is your career, it's your job to check out everything that's going on here. If I put it into my log and you don't do anything about it, so Kirk at this stage has to go check it out. So Kirk transports down to the colony with one of the ship's psychiatrists, Dr. Helen Noel, and Dr. Adams introduces him to a strangely emotionless therapist, Lethe. I want to say her name is Lethe. And she's introduced as a person that was brought to the colony as a criminally insane, and she stayed on after her treatment was over as a therapist. But she's incredibly emotionless, probably more so than Spock. Of course, Spock, he represses his emotions as being a Vulcan, but there's always that slight little bit there. But this woman is almost like talking like a computer, more or less. Adams then gives Kirk and Dr. Noel a tour of the colony. Although he is affable and accommodating, his staff all seem lacking in emotions. Adams shows Kirk and Noel the treatment room device he referred to as a neuro neutralizer, and this information is also coming out from Van Gelder on the Enterprise to Spock and McCoy, who now the two of them are kind of like there's more going on in here than meets the eye. Dr. Adams claims the machine harmless at low intensity, it's used only to calm agitated inmates. Noel is satisfied with his explanation, but Kirk remains suspicious, as well he should be. On the Enterprise, of course, Van Gelder becomes increasingly frantic, warning that the landing party is in danger, but when he tries to explain what the danger is, refers to the neural neutralizer, he's convulsing with pain. So, he seems completely off his trolley and seen in this episode, but there's more going on right here. Spock mind melds with Van Gelder. This is the first time in the run of the original series we see this sort of thing, and he's reluctant to do it to a human. He's never done it to a human before, but McCoy is like, Jim Kirk is potentially in trouble here. If there's something you can do to find out what's going on, you need to do it. So, kind of reluctantly at the start, Spock does mind meld with Van Gelder and breaks down whatever this is that's keeping him from telling them what's going on. Spock learns that the neural neutralizer can empty the mind completely of thoughts, leaving only the unbearable feeling of loneliness, and that Adams has been using it on inmates and staff to gain total control over their minds. The first officer assembles a security team. Of course, the first officer being Spock, and but the colony's force field blocks, and when this thing's up, you can't beam down to the planet, so it's a security measure. Communication as well, if the settings is right, you can't get communications through either. Unaware of what's going on in the ship, Kirk decides to test the neural neutralizer on himself with Noel at the controls, and she finds that she can easily implant thoughts into Kirk's mind, even altering his memory of a recent Christmas party encounter between the two of them. There's a bit of a stressed relationship between Kirk and Noel, because Kirk seemed to be unaware of her presence on the Enterprise, which to me was kind of, there's a lot of people on the Enterprise, don't get me wrong, but you would think him in the role of captain should have more an awareness of who's actually on the Enterprise. So, as big a fan of Star Trek as I am, being a creator, as I said at the beginning of the podcast, I tend to watch things in a fairly objective light. I can enjoy it for what it is, but I can, kind of pick it apart as well for whatever faults is in there. It's just the kind of the downside to being a creator. At the end of the day, you are very much aware of how things is done and whatnot. So that was kind of the thing that jumped out to me in the episode. She puts these thoughts into his mind to make him relive it a little bit different than what had actually happened. While she's doing this, Adams appears, overpowers Noel along with one of his employees, more or less, and seizes controls and increases the neutralizer's intensity, and proceeds to my notes. I tend to trip over my words whenever I'm reading. Excuse me. He proceeds to convince Kirk that he has been madly in love with Noelle for years, and Kirk and Noelle are now then confined to quarters. On Kirk's orders, Noelle enters the facility's physical plant through the ventilation duct. He's still fairly much in control of his own mind at this point, and interprets. She interrupts Kirk's next neutralizer session by shutting off the power to the entire complex. Freed from the neutralizer, Kirk attacks Adams, leaving him alone and unconscious on the treatment room floor. A guard discovers Noelle's sabotage. They have a fight, and she defeats him by pushing him back into the electric circuitry with a, just she kicks him into it, and he gets pretty much electrocuted, killed on the spot. And the power of the plant, everything's down. That takes down the security shield, which means Spock and the away team can then beam in to try and save Kirk and Noelle. But when Spock lands, she's left the room, so he's not aware exactly of what is going on at this point. So he restores power to the plant, to the colony itself, and radios Enterprise, telling them that the shield has been neutralized and everything's good to go on the surface. But with the power now on again, it reactivates the neural neutralizer, which is at full strength, and Dr. Adams is in there on his own, and it empties his mind completely. And when Spock meets up with Captain Kirk and Noelle, Kirk remembers Adams is in there, and they rush back to the room where this neural neutralizer is at and shut it down, but Adams is dead on the floor. There's an interesting line at the end of this episode where Kirk is or Noelle is comments that this device shouldn't have killed Adams because it wasn't at full intensity at that stage. And Kirk remarks is can you imagine what it'd be like in here, getting your mind completely emptied of absolutely everything and not even having a tormentor for company? And back at the Enterprise at the end of the episode, Kirk's informed that Van Gelder, now back to his normal self, apparently has destroyed the neural neutralizer. And Kirk and McCoy comments that he's surprised that someone could die from loneliness. But Kirk, after experience, he's not surprised. You wouldn't be surprised if you actually sat in that chair. So there's a moment of quiet reflection at the end of the episode, because Kirk had great respect for Dr. Adams and always wished that he could have met him. And when he did, he discovered that he was, crazy, criminally insane in his own way, let's just say. So it's a very, very interesting episode. It deals with a lot of psychological issues, which, in my experience, could be highly offensive these days to a lot of people. But it's a fantastic, fantastic episode, and it definitely stands the test of time. It's hard to believe that this show, it's hard to believe and it's not hard to believe at the same time. Looking at the show now, you can see its age at times, but the stories are fairly timeless on Star Trek. And the original air date for Dagger of the Mind was November 3rd, 1966. So hard to believe it's that far back. The performances in this episode were fantastic. James Gregory as Dr. Adams was great. Van Gelder, Morgan Woodward. He did a fantastic job as that tortured soul in this episode. Mariana Hill as Helen Noel was fantastic in it as well. And of course the series regulars do their regular fantastic work. So definitely this is one of those episodes that is a pleasant surprise in the series. So that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully I haven't destroyed it too badly for you, but definitely go check out the original series of Star Trek. Don't let it put you off that it's such an old show. It's a classic, and yes, I enjoy it. It's one of these shows that I can watch over and over again and not get fed up with it. So until the next episode, guys, we're going to stay safe. And in this next episode, we're going to start into season 1 of Star Trek Discovery. So that's the way this show is going to be. If you're a first time listener, that's the way this podcast is going to be going with Star Trek alone. We're going to be going through the classic episodes on a Tuesday, and we're going to be doing one of the newer shows on a Thursday. I think maybe I've got that wrong way about. Actually, I have. It's a Tuesday. It's going to be the new Star Trek, like Discovery and all those shows. And on the Thursday, we're going to be doing the classics, like the original series. And then eventually when we finish with that, Next Generation, DS9, Voyager. This show is going to last forever. So if you're a Star Trek fan or a science fiction fan in general, follow the show. Give it a little bit of a rating review. And bear with me as I keep going, trying to get my footing as a podcaster. I still kind of struggle with the audio only platform. I'm more of a visual freak at the end of the day. But yes, science fiction is your thing. This is the place to be. We're probably at some point going to do random Saturdays as a kind of a brainwave I had the other evening there. I was doing a video on YouTube talking about this new reboot of Quantum Leap that has been talked about recently, and I was thinking, you know, the old show, the original run of Quantum Leap, again as another series that in today's society, even though it was a family show, didn't shy away from the big issues, and was fairly not graphic in tone but graphic in message at times. And another one of these shows that I feel that you could get into trouble talking about on YouTube. It's really, really strange when it comes to content creation these days. People, again, get so easily offended so quickly that you kind of feel that you need to be stupidly careful in the stuff you cover these days, particularly on YouTube. So it's been a science fiction show, probably be a random Saturday series, so we'll see what happens. We'll just play it by ear right now and see what's happening, because I'm juggling a few podcasts right now. There's not just this one. There's a horror podcast called Hellmouth Hotline. If you're interested in horror, check that out. And the Here's Rotters Vlogs and Reviews podcast. It's more or less, I've got a vlog channel and a review channel on YouTube. Normally I just strip the audio from the reviews, put it onto that podcast. But you know, anything that I do on the vlog channel that would kind of work in an audible fashion ends up there as well. So, you know, there's quite a bit of content. So check out coinsagemedia.com for everything. All the short films and whatnot are over there as well, along with the short film conclusions I was talking about at the beginning of the episode. So, you know, if this isn't your cup of tea, something over there might be. So stay safe, guys, and I'll talk to you again on Tuesday.